Hey guys, this is Issues with Toddy One Skip. I am Toddy One Skip. Thanks as always for allowing me to be part of your day. This is a longer video than usual. It is the part two of Meet Matt. So, as you guys have seen the part one, I'm going to make a playlist and I'll have the link to part one in the description. Part one, Matt introduces himself, tells you that he's been part of Scientology for a long time, got out of Scientology, got himself in trouble, did 10 years in Australian prison. He's from Australia for attempted MURDER. And this is the second part of our interview, guys. Thanks so much for your support and everything. And I'm glad that you're enjoying these one offs. Thank you. So, I have a question for you out of my own question. Is jail the same as prison? Is it the same building? What is that like? Because here in the United States, I worked in jail, and prison was it's a whole different ball game. So everybody that goes to prison goes to jail first. They get sentenced, and then if there is so much time that they're doing, they will go to a prison, a different facility. So
Yep.
I think jail is what you guys call remand period. Is that like the remand period?
Yep.
But is there
Yeah.
are there jails and prisons in Australia?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same,
Okay.
from what I understand in America. So jail would be where you'd be housed until your court case, and then if you're found guilty, and then you're sentenced to imprisonment, then after you're sentenced, you would be then transferred to a prison.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the same thing.
Okay. Okay. So go ahead. I'm sorry. I just that was always like murky to me. Maybe from the different countries that I've dealt with this issue about in screenplay writing, actually. But so
But in Australia, we actually did call prison jail interchangeably
okay.
for a long, long time. It was used interchangeably. But yeah, I took a plea deal. Basically, I completely, confessed to. I didn't try to deny it. I just said I'm guilty. Lock me, whatever. And I was sentenced to 15 years.
Wow.
And due to the nature of the crime, I was sentenced to a prison called Long Bay Jail, or Long Bay Prison. And that was a wild place. That
Where
was a
is that?
really wild place.
Where is that in Australia? Is that by Melbourne? Is it by Brisbane? Where would that be more or less on a map looking flat on Australia?
It's in New South Wales.
Okay. So
It's
it's not a rural area.
not really. It's coastal. It's I don't know how familiar you are with Sydney, but it's near the city, kind of south of the city.
Okay, okay. By Sydney. Okay.
Yeah. And I started off there actually. And that was a hard place. It was the worst place. It was the worst place. The worst place I ever was in my lockup. The worst place.
And that wasn't the jail, that was prison.
That was prison.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was from day one. People were calling out at me, and look, we've all watched documentaries, and we've all watched, true crime stuff, and I had too. I'd never imagined in my life that I would ever be in a situation like that. And so in my mind, you know, if someone says something, you have to fight them, right? That's the rule, That's what I learned from watching, documentaries and stuff. If you back down or if you let someone disrespect you, you have to stand up for yourself. Otherwise, it's going to get a whole lot harder. And, people I was kind of cool for a while, kept to myself. But one day when I was going to the shower, some guy said, "Oh, hey, you got a nice butt." And there was other people there watching. And in my mind, I'm like, I have to attack the guy, right? Because then I did. I attacked him, and, it wasn't long before guards came and broke it up. But I got in big trouble for that. And just due to the nature of the crime and the fight, I actually got transferred from Long Bay to Goulburn, which is a higher security prison, you see.
And how far is that from Long Bay? On like where would that be on a map?
Oh, a good 4-hour drive.
Really? So is that in a rural area or is that as well in a city?
Yeah,
That's in the rural area.
it's about 4-hour drive northwest inland.
Wow. Wow.
It's actually in Goulburn is actually where the New South Wales Police Academy is located.
Right. Wow.
But Goulburn is the highest security prison in Australia. It's called Supermax.
Okay. Okay. So how long were you in Long Bay before you were in Goulburn?
Oh, about a year.
Okay. And from day one, it was shit. From day one, it was never a comfortable situation. It was always with the eyes in the back of your head and
Yeah.
always on. When you were there, did you mess with any drugs? Were you sober at this point? Where were you in your head? Because you just went through a whole life of being a Scientologist. You lost your mom when you were younger, right? At an earlier age, or you lost your mom around this time, actually. So you lost your girlfriend. There was a hellacious crime, high on drugs, and now everything stopped, and you're facing these, they were piss green colored walls where I worked. You know, I don't know what color the walls in the prison were that you were in, but I mean, at that point, your mind is unreeling. But were you sober at this point? Was it sobering? Were you sober?
Well, look, initially when I first got into prison, I was, but it wasn't long before I was offered drugs, and boy, was I itching for some drugs. So I was smoking a little bit of weed here and there, and I was, and I'm not proud of it, but I was using some money that I was getting from family towards these drugs.
Right.
And so, yeah, for a while, I was definitely using drugs in prison. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
when that happened with the other inmate in the shower, how long you were there? Like a year before that happened?
Yeah, I was there for about 9, 10 months, and then that happened in the shower. And the thing is like you got to understand. In my mind, I had no choice but to
Oh,
fight
yeah, I'm
back.
not judging you. Mind you, I'm not judging you. I'm not judging you.
Yeah.
I'm just asking where your head was at. And was that all? Not that that's all. I mean, if you feel like somebody is backing you into a corner, whether it be, verbally or what have you, um, did you did he put hands on you or did he just compliment your derriere?
No, he said you got a nice butt. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh,
I want to put an end to this before it begins. And there's a lot of
I have
people
to.
around. You said there was a lot of people around.
Still people there, and I had to like, I'm like, man, now I have to like, and so I just had to, you know,
Right.
start fighting him, and you know,
Right.
yeah.
And
Look,
then
and
they,
look,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, and I'm not saying I'm a good fighter, but I was better than him. I was better than him, and yeah, I gave it to him pretty good, but I didn't, beat him up too badly. But I got in trouble for that. I got a write up for that, and basically, due to the crime that I had committed, I don't know, I had already been a flagged prisoner already,
Right.
and
Right.
when I had violently assaulted in the guard's eyes another prisoner in the shower,
Right. 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 Right.
that
Right.
was considered red alert.
Yeah. And nobody's gonna say what happened. You might have all those people looking, but nobody saw anything. I know that. You know what I'm saying? So
But yeah, but the guy did that I hurt. The guy did, and I denied it, of course. But it basically there was a month or so period of investigation, and one day I get a guard calling me out of the cell and said, "It's come with me." And I was shipped and transferred over to another prison. I was,
yeah, packed up and ready to go.
yeah, and sent to a higher security prison. But I will say that the higher security prison, Goulburn, was actually a better experience than where I was at, to be honest.
Yeah. So you get to Goulburn and you're probably freaking out because it's like, holy shit, man. Now I'm getting into a worse position. You know what I'm saying? So at any point they had you the shoe, the special, were you in solitaire or anything? I don't know what it's called there.
Yeah,
Right? Like, did they put you in the hole? I don't know the terminology that's used there. I could go to one of my scripts actually and look it up, but
yeah, solitary confinement. Look, I went there a couple of times through my stay. Um, I got into multiple fights over the years. Not too many. There's some people that are fighting there every day.
right.
I probably got into a few fights, maybe 3, 4
Yeah,
fights.
I was only talking about that the time when the shower incident. So when they pulled you apart and they're investigating, are you in the shoe at that point? Are you in a special housing unit at that
Oh
solid?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
right.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then they investigate it. Then they say it's time. Grab your B&B is what they used to say where I worked. Bags and beds and baggage, and you're out the door to your next
Yeah.
facility. So you end up in Goulburn. Let's go there. I know that I've stopped a few times just to ask some questions that I wanted to know the answer.
No, totally fine. Totally fine. And Goulburn's it's a really high security place. They call it the Circle. And look, there was a lot of hard people, a lot of scary looking people. But to my surprise, people were very actually more respectful there. And probably because you've got the worst of the worst. And everyone knew that. And so if you disrespect someone, they knew that, all right, this person could, if they had the means, they will kill me, no problems asked. But yeah, I started off in a single cell. I had a cell to myself for quite a while. And that was awesome. That was really cool because I like my privacy, I like my privacy.
But
Um,
when you go to eat, so when you go to eat, you still have to go and you're eating with other inmates, right?
Yeah, so we would get let out, and there'd be would go to the what's called the chow hall,
Right.
and we would have some lunch and stuff. And I've watched a lot of like prisoner YouTube channels from like America there,
Mhm.
and it's a lot the same. You know, it's very racist in prison. So the white guys stick to the white guys. Um,
But it's not, you
the
don't have African American, obviously. The
Not too
African,
many.
but you have the Aborigines. You have the what is
We do, yes.
that's is that
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
is
it's the term. Yeah,
okay.
Aboriginals. Yeah. You
So
could say Aborigines as well.
okay, so is that where the division is between the white Australians and the Aborigines? Is that where what is the racism?
Yeah, it's definitely between the whites and the Aboriginals for sure.
Okay.
But the Aboriginals are just one group of race. There's also the Middle Eastern group. When I say Middle Eastern, I'm talking about like the Arabs.
There is a large community of Middle Eastern people in.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
And in prison, that's another group that would be, like more or less like it is in America. So you'd have, your white people, you might have your Latino people, then you'll have your African American people, and then you know what I'm saying? So is that it?
yeah.
Okay.
And so, depending on what you are, you'll be allocated a group. So, and look, there's not many Asians. There are Asians in there, and so you might be allocated to the Islander group.
The
You know,
what?
the Islander. So, like the Maori.
Islander. Okay.
You know, or you might be the Aboriginal group, or you might be the Muslim Arab group, or you're the white group.
Okay.
And yeah, and so you have to be careful if like if you get into a fight with someone. Obviously, it's the same over there, but if you get into a fight with someone of a different race, of a different group, it could start a lot of problems.
Yeah, riots.
Start a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Get in some trouble, but by nature, I'm a pretty easy guy to get along with. You know, I'm pretty respectful. I'm not rude, or I'm not aggressive. I'm pretty respectful. I'm pretty, nice guy. And so I had an easy time getting along with most people.
Right.
There was times where someone, would cut in line in front of me or something, and I had to slap him in the back of the head or something like that.
Right.
But
But it wasn't based on the color of their skin. It was just the fact that they got in front of you in line. Could have been any
I
color
got in front of
skin.
me in line,
Right.
and again, you wouldn't dream of handling a situation like that on the outside,
Right.
but on the inside, you don't know who's watching. Everyone could be watching. You don't know who's watching, and even if it means you're getting another 7 months added to your sentence, you've got to do it.
Yeah,
You know,
especially when you're looking at your sentence and it's got double digits to it. You might think
yeah,
again,
I'm
you
already
got a
in there
year.
for a long time.
Yeah. How often
So,
did you have, were you able to have any family visits?
about once a month, I was allowed a visit.
But that was pretty far from where your family lives. I don't want you to tell me
Yeah.
where your family lives, but that's a far trek for people to come and visit. How is it with what year was this?
Oh, it's about 2013
So
2014.
did they have like the tablets like they have now in the prisons? or is it
No,
that you're standing,
not at that time. No,
you're
no.
standing you're standing in a hallway on a telephone with basically a telephone booth, and you got a card in there, is what it is, right?
Yeah. And sometimes, all the telephones would be
Used.
full,
Right. Okay.
and you'd be in line
Right.
to use the telephone. And sometimes the guy in front of you'd be on the phone for 40 minutes. And you got to wait. You
Yeah.
have to wait. And, but, that's just how it was. People would be on the phone to their loved ones. But that was honestly, getting on the phone to my loved ones was the happiest part of being inside.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. So how was the food there?
Oh, awful,
Really?
awful, awful. It was honestly not even enough really to get, like, if you, let's just say, hypothetically, you had no one help giving you money while you're in prison, and all you can eat is the food they're giving you in the hall. I don't think it'd be enough to give you proper vitamins and sustenance. I don't think it'd be enough. You'd
Really?
get chicken. Sometimes on a good day, you'd get like 3 little chicken wings. Some days you'd get some, you know, egg salad that may have been frozen for 3 months, and
Wow.
it wasn't great. I was lucky I was able to get myself some
Commissary.
commissary food.
Right.
Yeah.
Do they
Um,
I'm sorry, do they allow like trustees? Do they allow you to work? Are there inmates that can work in the facility, and do they get paid? Do they get do they get good time? How does that work?
in Goulburn, there wasn't that option.
Which that you couldn't even work in the jail? You couldn't.
No.
So when you had people that were doing the kitchen and making the meals, that was an outside entity coming in, that was an account coming in, that had nothing to do with the employees were employees, they weren't they weren't inmates.
I think it probably were trustees, to be honest. But I mean, in terms of inmates working, that was the extent of it. Besides occasional trustees sweeping
And
and stuff like
laundry,
that.
and doing the laundry, right? Like so
Yeah,
yeah, I didn't mean them going out, I meant them working within the facility,
yeah.
doing
No, there
the
were trustees that did
right.
work
So
in
did
the
they, do you
kitchens
know,
and stuff.
did they get paid? Did they get, or do you not know?
Oh, probably $2 an hour,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know that they
something
get
like
paid
that.
very little. Is there any incentive about, if they work, they get time off their sentence?
No.
See, that's like that in America in the jails. I don't know in the prisons. I don't think that that's the case, but you get good time. I guess you get off on good time. You got off on good time, no, or yes?
I did get granted parole
Right,
um, early than my sentence.
right. You're
Um,
sentenced to 15 years, and you told me you did 10, right?
yeah, yeah.
So at some point, when is it that you start realizing? So you're in a single cell. You're kind of feeling, okay, this isn't as bad as I thought in your head, because in your head it must have been monstrous. But when you get there, it's not as bad as you thought, as long as you follow the rules. Or maybe the rules are a lot more clear there, so that as long as you stay within the boundaries of them, you're safe. Maybe,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So you get there, you're in a single cell. Go on.
Yeah, no, in a single cell, and I had a guy come up to me, good guy, and introduce himself and to say, look, hey man, um, this is how things work. He kind of instructed me on what my experience would be like. He said, look, kind of stay clear. Don't even stay clear of this group, stay clear of this group. Don't associate with these people. He said some of the guards are nice, but don't be, too familiar with the guards, because even though they're nice and they might be like nice guys, right? Don't get too familiar because it's going to be a bad look. And it's just not worth it, right? And so I'm like, yeah, no worries. And so yeah, I did mingle with my group.
So when that inmate came up to you, because that was an inmate we're talking about, how long had it been that you were in the facility when somebody reached out and you thought, I could breathe a little bit? At least I don't have to look that way if he's standing there. I still have to maybe look these 3 ways. So how long was it until you felt like maybe you had somebody that you could go to that, you know?
It was honestly straight away. It was honestly a day, really,
Wow.
before that guy kind of hooked me up with with information and stuff like that. And I was glad for it, to be honest, because you got to understand, you're nervous as hell going into these places, and if someone comes up to you and introduces himself and says, look, this is the story, then you know what the story is. And because I guess the biggest thing that that makes people anxious is not understanding something, or not knowing something, or not being familiar with something. And so for someone to come up and introduce me and this is your people, this is where you can sit for lunch, this is who you can mingle with, then you go, okay, then I know the story. I know how I have to kind of conduct myself in a way. Yeah. So that was good, really. But there was some things that happened later on that, not to me, but stuff that I witnessed, I guess, or heard.
Right. So
That
so right away so that did happen to you. It doesn't matter that it didn't happen directly to you. If you saw something that's now living in your memory that you're dealing with, that something that's you wish you would not have seen,
yeah,
then it does have something to do with you, because you carry it with you until you don't carry it with you, right?
yeah,
So, and sounds that we hear, there's sounds that I've heard in my life when my dogs got hurt, or when a kid yelled for help, or that you don't unhear those sounds, and you kind of have to live with them in your memory. So they do, they definitely have something to do with who we are, and who we become after we have those experiences. So if you want to share that, I would love to do that. However, man, I'm really getting a lot out of this conversation, a lot out of this interview. Um,
oh, cool.
learning a lot. So I do have a couple questions as I was reflecting for a moment. And so one of the questions is, when you went over to confront your ex-girlfriend's brother,
Yep.
he had a weapon, you didn't have a weapon. How were you going to confront him verbally? Were you going to have a fist fight? What was your plan What did you envision before you got over there and the situation took care of itself and wrote itself out?
Yeah, so I was in a pretty psychotic state of mind, and I wanted to beat him up, to be honest with you. I wanted to beat him up with my fists, and I wanted to um initiate the confrontation verbally and aggressively. And yeah, I basically went over there and said, "Hey, you're an R word. You're a sicko. You're a piece of S. How could you do that to your sister? There's." And I said, I want to fight you." And the guy, you know, I was on drugs and I was on alcohol and drugs, but I think he had been drinking a little bit himself, actually. And he probably felt in that moment that I was going to beat him up. And he pulled out the knife to make me back off. That's what I felt. And just in the motion, in the moment, he dropped the knife. And I was able to, he went and tried to pick it up, but I was able to actually pick it up before him. And at that point, I just stabbed him in his stomach.
Right.
And yeah, I'm not proud of that at all. It was a horrible situation.
Right. So let me ask you, you said that you started watching the channel, or at least you're watching the videos of the Gypsy Rose situation. So
Mm.
do you relate to Nick? Do you feel at all, how do you view Nick? Is it just the Gypsy Rose? Is there anything that you feel connected to about this situation?
Yeah, so when it comes to Gypsy Rose, I think she's a horrible human being.